Hey guys, it's Savannah. I've been talking a lot about food lately, and vitamins and nutrients and remedies of sorts. And the reason I've been talking about it is because I believe the cheapest and most efficient form of healthcare is self-care. We shouldn't put our something as important as our health in other people's hands, and that's what most of us do every day. I hear people all the time talk about how if it wasn't good for us, it would never be allowed on shelves for us to buy and consume and feed our children. And the sad thing is that's not true. It's really not. And I'm not saying that people who are putting these things on our shelves have ill intentions at all. They're just normal people like you and I doing the best they can with what they have available to them at any given moment. And yeah, some could and should try a little bit harder, but that's just not how our world works yet. And luckily it's moving towards that, which is great. But in the meantime, it's up to us to take responsibility for ourselves and our families and the health of it all, of us all. So when we're talking about self-care and building our health for ourselves, the first thing that we should look at, because it's the most important thing, is how we feed ourselves. Because we are what we eat, right? So every meal is an opportunity to either feed health and grow our health, or to feed sickness and to grow that, which is not what we want. And granted, some things are a little bit more complicated than that. I'm not going to say that you can cure cancer by eating healthy, but I will say that you could probably cut down your chances of it, or help yourself in a positive manner away from that, kinda. But it's a huge step. No matter what you're facing health-wise, it is never, ever, ever a bad idea to feed yourself properly. And I don't only mean physically, because all of us think of our physical bodies when we start talking about food and our diets. And I'm talking about the sense of the word diet and how it's meant to be, which is lifestyle and what we eat on a regular basis, not what we've turned it into, which is something that we start overnight and continue on for a certain period of time before we throw it away and revert back to our old ways that weren't helping us in the first place. I'm talking about the lifestyle, our lifestyles, and our ability to adopt a new lifestyle and to innovate the one we already have to serve us instead of harm us. And many of us don't realize how harmful our diets are. And it's not our fault. It's not our fault. Even though we live in the age of information and everything is available to us at our fingertips, there's so many conflicting studies out there and articles and diets and lifestyles, and every one of them says that they're the right one and they're the correct one. And that may be true and it may not be true, because things can be both true and false all at the same time, depending on yourself and your perspective. Just because it's the perfect diet for this person doesn't mean it's the perfect diet for that person. The best way, in my opinion, what I've been practicing, and it's really worked out for me and everyone I know that's implemented it, is mindful eating. Keeping track of what you feed your body, not worrying about all these diet trends and fads that are telling you that this is good or this is bad or whatever, but keeping track of what you're eating and how it makes you feel. Some of us might not be, I don't want to say lactose intolerant. Most of us are lactose intolerant, and I don't really necessarily agree with drinking or eating dairy in any form. But if you do, then that's your choice, and you have every right to make that choice. Bread, another controversial topic, may not make everybody feel bad. It does make me feel bad, so I try really hard not to eat it. I'm not perfect. Most of us aren't. None of us are perfect. But in the sense of diet, most of us have something that we struggle with our food choices. It's really hard to get away from addictive sugar and addictive dairy and addictive gluten. Our bodies love it. They don't love it. We think they love it. It's our minds that are telling us we love it. It's addictive. It's an addiction. And one that we don't think of very often as an addiction, and we don't treat as an addiction because, it's not a hard drug. And when we've got all these hard drugs out there, nobody's really worried about the sugar or the gluten or the harmful addictive chemicals in the really convenient processed food. So it's up to us to take control of our own diet and formulate one that fits our particular lifestyle and our particular body, and so we can feel our best and be our brightest and have all this energy that we want to do all of the things that we want in this magnificent life that has all of these opportunities and things for us to do if we could only find the energy to get to them, right? But in another case, we also want to, feeding ourselves properly, vitamins, nutrients, and all of the things our physical body needs to thrive isn't the only way we need to look at these things. We also, by feeding our bodies properly, are feeding our minds properly. And our spirits, but we'll get to that. And what I mean by that is because food is such a hard thing for us to overcome, by rising up and conquering it, we're building our confidence. We're building our self-esteem. We're building our self-control, which are all incredibly important things if we're wanting to succeed at anything in life. And if we can't conquer ourselves and the things that we physically do to harm ourselves, like eating these processed, chemically infused foods, then how are we supposed to conquer all of the outside struggles and obstacles that we come across to succeed at all of the goals and opportunities and awesome things that we want to do and have and be in this world, right? It also feeds our soul, our spirit, our very inner being, like who we are on the inside. Vastly, like big words that I can't find. And the reason for that being is, for example, I try really hard not to eat meat. I haven't always been this way. I grew up on the standard American diet of ramen noodles and tortilla chips, which aren't meat. Hamburgers, hot dogs, steaks, pork chops, chicken, you name it, that's what we eat. Every meal, every day, all the time. That's how I was raised. And when you're raised a certain way and you try to implement something that's completely opposite, it's really hard. It's really hard. I know firsthand. It's really hard. But getting close, let's see, about 8-ish or so plus, maybe, I have no concept of time. So months ago, I started learning about veganism and looking into that, and I was really interested. I'm still really interested in it, even though I don't think I'll ever be vegan, because it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And as much as I love animals, I'm not. Everybody has their battles, especially their worldview battles, that they need to conquer in life. And as somebody who has personally tried to take on all the causes, you can't do it. You have to pick the causes that most deeply align with you and your soul, and save the animals just isn't one that aligns with me, even though I hugely support it. And so with veganism, you have to, it's more of like, you don't use leather, or like all these things, no animal products at all whatsoever in anything. And so I'm not vegan, and I probably won't ever be, but I do lean more towards a plant-based diet. So I started cutting out meat around 7-8+ or so or whatever months ago, and I'm almost completely got it like all the way phased out of my diet. I eat it not even once a week at this point, and I hope to completely knock that out entirely. That's a whole blog post video on its own on why and stuff, but just know that changes are hard. But my point being is that eating meat doesn't align with my soul. I know, even though I'm not all save the animals, I know that is a living, breathing being that was treated cruelly and in its poor, short life, and unnecessarily butchered early in its life so that we can eat steak. And that kind of hurts my feelings, being a living, breathing being also on this planet. And so when we make decisions like that don't align with our soul, it makes it really hard for us to find alignment in other areas of our life, which will help us finding alignment helps us manifest the things that we desire and find positivity in our lives and fulfillment through actual real fulfillment, not like pretend fulfillment that lasts a couple of days or whatever. But by eating meat, I hurt myself, not only in the nutrition part, because it's not that wonderful for you, but also in the spiritual part. Because I believe, we all want peace on earth, but we can't hope to find peace and love and acceptance with our fellow humans if we can't even find a way to peacefully coexist with beings as innocent and just minding their own business as animals. Animals are the prime example of coexistence. And if we can't learn to coexist with them, how are we going to learn to coexist with our fellow humans who have open opinions and make bad choices and stuff, right? So that's kind of how there's a lot of reasons for it. There's a lot of reasons behind my choices not to eat meat. But as a point to feeding your mind, body, and spirit, there you go on that. So that's just a tidbit. I want to wrap this video up real quick so I can make my Tai Chi class. But, and I don't want to ramble and keep you forever. So I'll probably make some more, because I want to tell you about how I got into healthcare stuff and self-care and whatnot. and my story and my battles with all of that. But that's a whole nother video, which I was expecting to talk to you in this one about, but once again, I'm rambling. And so yeah, that's my whole spiel on mind, body, spirit, eat well, alignment type thing. And I have a food journal coming out really soon that will help you to focus on your food intake and how it's affecting your mind and body and spirit, because I got all that in there and it'll help you a lot. And that's about all I have to say about all of that. Check out all the blog posts if you haven't read those. Share this video if you want, if you liked it. Share the blog posts, share everything. Sharing is caring. And I'll talk to you again soon.